Welcome back, dear audience, to our story channel, with a very special detective crime novel, by author Sharon Bolton. Today, we follow the protagonist, on a thrilling and suspenseful adventure, full of surprises, crafted by the skilled author Sharon Bolton. Part 2. The hot air balloon had drifted quite far, quickly orienting himself using the sun, and checking the wind direction by taking a deep breath. To sense the different smells, the Rick started moving east, where the landscape resembled a tundra, with scorching winds and barren trees. Few knew the terrain within 400 miles better than he did, and if the wind didn't change direction, he could quite confidently guess where the others would land. Heather plants densely covered the slopes, glowing in the purple light of dawn, yet his four-wheel drive vehicle could easily traverse the hard, sharp rocks like knives that posed many obstacles. Indeed, he had left many tracks, but within about an hour, the sky would still be clouded, with gray clouds blowing in from the sea. It was still dark. Soon, the rain would pour down, helping to erase his tracks. And even if they couldn't be completely erased, it would be difficult for anyone to distinguish them from the tracks left by farmers or rangers passing through the brush. He had lost sight of the hot air balloon when moving through the brush, but quickly spotted it again once past them. Its position in the sky was now much lower. He started counting again, first from the woman in the blue jacket. 6, 90, 11, 12 people, he thought. Precisely, he was certain there were 12. Focusing too much on the object in the sky almost made him crash into a rock jutting out of the ground. The front left wheel hit a stone, jolting him forward, forcing him to stop, turn around, and find a way around the rocky area. The ground here was very rough. The steep hills of the Tres Valles mountain range gave way to marshes and rocky outcrops. He couldn't speed up to the maximum, plus the wind wasn't very strong at the moment, and he was already catching up with the others. He estimated he needed only about 10 more minutes, at most 15. He managed to stabilize himself in the driver's seat. 2 hunts in one day. I've had worse mornings. No. People can't just stand there staring. We need to watch where we're going. And stop pushing. Nobody paid attention to what Ninja was saying. All the passengers in the balloon basket were glued to the back, staring at the trailing path. They had traveled over the distant ground below, where a man on an ATV seemed to be pursuing them. I'm taking us higher, Nigio said, lighting the burner. Until we're sure we're safe. He can't catch us, can he? A boy asked. Once more, the flame roared, and the balloon began to rise. Has anyone contacted the ground yet? Any phones with signal? Any luck with the radio? I posted a tweet, the boy said. I don't know if anyone noticed it yet. I only have 43 followers. Father, the boy's dad said. I called emergency services. They answered, but my phone lost signal right after. Jessica checked her phone again. Still no signal. However, the photos she had taken of the man below and the pilot had been safely stored. The message for Nigio was also ready to send as soon as there was a signal. He can't track us, Nigio said. There will be rivers blocking his path. Or walls, or something else. Everyone, stop looking back. I can't do everything by myself. Walt, answer me. There's a forest ahead. Jessica heard her sister say. We need to avoid it. And there are also some high-voltage power lines to the south. He's gone, I can't see him anymore. Jessica looked back at the vehicle. And didn't see the driver. He's in that little valley. The retired journalist said. Running up and down the slopes will slow him down. Everyone keep checking your phones for signal. Walt was now able to stand up, his face pale and pinched. Nigio, there's no radio in this basket. There must be one, we saw Sean using it. I've searched everywhere. Every nook and cranny, every bag, everywhere. I know where it is. Jessica turned to look at her sister, who had tears shining in her eyes. It's on a strap, and Sean wore it around his neck, Isabel said. When not in use, he might have put it in his pocket. What are you saying? One of the men asked. He didn't see it, didn't know it. It's not his fault. All the passengers stared at her calm face, all discouraged. Oh, we threw it away? We threw it away with Sean? I told you, Natalie wailed. I told you not to do that. No, damn it, you didn't, Walt roared. You told us not to let him near you. You don't have to use such harsh language. Her husband snapped back. Oh, for God's sake, look at us. Do you have any better suggestions? Other than foul language fitting for her? Respect your speech a little. Natalie's husband glared. Enough, silence. Thank God, they listened to Nigio. He was in command now. So, we have no way to contact the ground? Nigio asked. We still have phones. Bob said, sooner or later, they'll get a signal. We just need to stay high a bit longer. That's enough. I posted another tweet. The boy said. And someone responded. Thank God for this kid, Jessica thought. And the man on the ATV? Are we rid of him? Not yet. He slowed down but still chasing us. The retired journalist said. Surely we should stay up here. Agreed, it's more sensible now. Nigio was watching the gas cylinder, preparing to light it again. The problem is this tank is running low. I'll try to find another. Walt said. Nigio lit the burner, and the balloon rose again. Hearing the sputtering from the gas tank, he said, we'll be quite high before the fuel runs out. So keep looking for a major road or vehicle. And keep checking for signal. Nigio lit the burner again. The sensor read 1200 m, 1250 m, 1350 m, the balloon was rising fast. The temperature had dropped significantly. I think I know how to control it. But I need someone to check. Walt said. We're leaving him behind. Hey, something's wrong. Suddenly, the world darkened. A shadow fell over them, and the balloon above shook violently, its perfect circle twisting and deforming. This doesn't look good, Martin said, looking up. We just hit a downdraft, Nigio said. We should drop altitude to get out of it. I'll check that. He moved to Bone's spot. Pull that valve quickly. The two swapped places. This one? Walt asked, holding the rope. Nigio didn't look over. I get it. We just need to release this valve and switch lines. Great, it fits. The colorful rope, pull it gently. Walt pulled the rope, and the world collapsed. In an instant, Jessica felt weightless, as if in a falling elevator. Her stomach churned, and she realized the basket was falling. Oh no, what's happening? God, what's happening? The basket continued to plummet, its speed increasing. She had to kneel down, her body plunging downwards, hair standing on end, a powerful force pulling her neck down rapidly. Her skull felt like it was being compressed. Get up, get up! She raised her hand, gripping something. Anything to anchor herself, and her hand found the basket's edge. As if pulling herself from a whirlpool, she tried to stand up straight. As they fell, the basket tilted, the heavier passengers falling faster. Through the edge, she could see the gray, green, and brown shapes of the earth spinning closer. Everyone was screaming, maybe she was too. Let go, Walt, let go! Nigio's arm wrapped around the basket ropes, his feet firmly planted. Let go! Somehow, Jessica's eyes were glued to the sensor screen. 1200 m, 1000 m. The ground was getting closer. Walt had fallen against the basket, both hands not holding anything. I let go. What did you pull? Nigio yelled at him. Walt, face white, pointed to the red rope. 900 m, 750 m. As if slapped by an invisible hand, Nigio's face filled with panic. Oh God, not that. That's not the rope I told you to pull. Above them, the balloon nearly deformed, collapsing, so close they could touch it. 600 m, 500 m, 400 m. No, no, no. Natalie was sobbing in another compartment. Use the burner. Jessica heard a voice in her head. Was anyone else hearing it over the wind's howl? And the surrounding screams? I can't reach it. Nigio, use the burner. Hand on the burner. Nigio fumbled for the switch, lighting it. The flame roared, 10 seconds. She wasn't sure they had 10 seconds. They were about to hit the ground, the earth ready to swallow them. Nigio lit the burner again. But it made no difference, the balloon was deflated and could no longer function. It could only maintain its position above them thanks to its rapid descent. 300 m, 150 m. She was staring intently at the red cord that had doomed the balloon. Not far away was the colorful rope that Nigel had pulled. There are two ropes, she shouted at him. Pull the other one. 100 m, 75 m. We might just make things worse, he replied. Can it get any worse? Jessica lunged, and for a moment, she thought she would leave the basket to grab the colorful rope and yank it hard. The altitude continued to drop. Silence fell as if everyone around her was too horrified to scream. She looked up. The balloon jolted and swayed before it expanded back into its original shape. The passengers bounced up again and then hung in midair as if caught by giant hands. The sensation of free fall stopped. 60 m, 55 m, 50 m. They continued descending but at a much slower pace. Nigel fired the gas burner again. 42 m, 36 m. She started counting, 7, 8, 90. 22 m, 15 m, 17 m, 19 m. They stabilized, and someone began to vomit. Thank God, sweat drenched Nigel's face. Don't touch that red cord again, he panted, turning to Walter. Keep burning, I'll switch the fuel tank. The balloon floated tantalizingly close to the ground. They could see every detail of the trees below and, in the distance, the buildings and light reflecting off the surface of a road. Anyone see that guy? Bob climbed the basket. At this height, we're still in his line of sight. We need to go higher, Isabel yelled. We're going to hit the high-voltage power line, hurry up. Everyone turned. They were very close to a high-voltage power line spanning the park. Walter started burning the fuel repeatedly. Each second brought them closer to the power line, but they needed more seconds to rise above it. The balloon ascended slowly. Hold tight, Martin shouted. Grab onto something. They narrowly cleared the top of the high-voltage pole, close enough for Jessica to touch it. Everyone sighed in relief just as the basket brushed against the power line. A deafening explosion followed. Sparks flew, filling the air around them. The basket jolted, tossing Natalie and her husband out as if they were flung from a catapult. They drifted away, still holding hands, leaving a burnt smell behind. Screams like alarms rang out. The teenage girl began to scream. The basket hit the power line again. Bob, precariously perched, lost his balance and fell out, clinging to the basket but eventually falling. Less than 3 meters below the basket, he landed on the power line. Close enough to the high-voltage pole for the current to arc and run through him, completing a circuit. His body convulsed, smoke seeping from his clothes like snakes seeking escape. His screams echoed the crackling of the sparks. Natalie and her husband had hit the ground. Oh my God, the mother clutched her children. Fasten your seatbelt, the accountant leaned closer to his family. Everyone, hold tight. Nigel was still burning, but the flames were too small to help. We're landing now, I can't control it anymore. Hold tight, we'll crash into those trees. Bella, help me with the seatbelt. Damn it, stop moving. Jessica braced for impact. She saw the golden leaves of the trees they were crashing into. The impact threw her to the basket floor, pain jolting through her body. Her head slammed into the metal buckle of the safety harness. A second before the world spun, she saw her sister, the one she tried to secure, thrown out of the basket. Her black dress billowed behind her, and Bella disappeared from sight, soaring into the sky. 28 years ago, 3 children sat cross-legged in the sand, not far from the sea, surrounded by a half-finished sandcastle. Their enthusiasm had dwindled upon realizing they had no bucket or shovel, only their small hands. Their construction bore little resemblance to the ramparts, battlements, and turrets they'd seen in books. The youngest child, only 8, was the most patient, thinking they could still improve their creation by decorating it with seashells, pebbles, and seaweed. But her older siblings had lost interest. Let's play time travel, said the eldest, a boy of about 14. Like his sisters, he was of average height for his age, with black hair and brown eyes, thick eyebrows, and full, rosy lips that revealed slightly spaced but very white teeth when he smiled. So I can go back and prevent the worst crimes from happening. Hooray, that would be awesome, the second child exclaimed. The youngest thought it would be amazing but could also cause problems beyond the original crimes. I want to fly, the second child, a girl, spread her arms like wings, to soar among the clouds and see everything, go anywhere. The youngest thought it sounded fun but also terrifying. And you, Chelsea? What superpower do you want? The boy asked. Jessica thought for a long time. It was hard to keep up with her siblings most of the time. I want to be invisible, she finally said, then added because it didn't seem impressive enough, the power to become invisible whenever I want. Everyone fell silent, and Jessica wondered if she'd said something wrong or stupid. Messy, you're like a little mouse, you're already half invisible, her brother teased. Don't tease her, Bella smiled at her younger sister. Invisibility is a great superpower. Let's go to the rock pool, Nestor skipped along the beach. Bella jumped up and chased after him. What about our shoes? Jessica looked at the dune where their shoes and socks lay. Don't worry, Bella was eager to catch up to Nestor. The tide won't reach here, and no one steals shoes here. She ran off at a speed Jessica knew she couldn't match. Still, she began running, knowing Bella would wait for her. She always did. Wednesday, September 20th. The woman he'd been following had fallen from the balloon, spiraling down to the ground, landing on the man who had fallen before her. Her head was turned in the opposite direction, legs draped over his torso. Patrick approached. They looked like puppets shoved into a too-small box, limbs limp and oddly positioned. They were motionless. He parked his four-wheeler 20 meters away and approached, leaving his gun behind to avoid the temptation to use it. As he walked, he scanned the surroundings, alert for loose rocks, deep mud, or unexpected witnesses. Shinto reached them first, sniffing them. This wasn't the woman in the green jacket who had stared at him as if to memorize his face or maybe knew him. He shook off the thought. This woman was older, late 50s, with dyed brown hair showing gray roots, stout, with grayish skin and many broken bones. The woman in the green jacket was slimmer and more agile, someone who could run or fight back. He felt a thrill thinking she might still be alive. He couldn't see the balloon anymore but knew it couldn't have gone far after hitting the power lines. He looked up. A man was still hanging from the wires. Several power lines were broken, one swinging back and forth, sparking. The smell reminded him of family cookouts. At least there were fewer to worry about now. If there were 12 people in the balloon and 3 were down, 9 were left. He searched the couple, finding a phone in the man's pocket, another wrapped in a red case near the man hanging from the wire. He took both phones. He called his dog and returned to the four-wheeler, treading on hard ground or heather bushes to avoid leaving tracks. He started the engine, mind locked on the black-haired woman in the green jacket, hoping she wasn't dead yet. The dull ache spread through her body as if all her blood had been replaced. Jessica could hear the buzzing in her head and the cries of the people around her as the basket crashed into the tree a second time and then a third. She could hear her skull hitting a hard surface, the sound of bones breaking, metal scraping against metal, and the hiss of the electrical wires above, like crazed snakes. The willow tree right in front of her had been torn apart, and its jagged branches were hurtling toward her, missing her by inches. The basket kept slamming into the ground and bouncing back up, each time feeling as if she was being thrown against a stone wall. She no longer saw Ninja in the cockpit, they really had no pilot anymore. Lying on the basket floor, she tried to look at the hot air balloon above, but its once beautiful shape was now twisted into something bizarre and ugly, seemingly glaring down at her, making her instinctively curl up. She tried to pull her arms and legs in close, but she was still being tossed around violently. Only the safety harness she clung to kept her inside the basket. Her muscles were straining, feeling torn and exhausted. The crashing stopped only when they bounced one last time. For a moment, she wondered if she was the only one left in the basket, the only one not thrown out. But then the screams pierced her consciousness again. There were still others, still clinging to the fragile wicker basket, still screaming. She didn't know where her sister was. The basket struck something and tilted. She fell against one side, the jagged edges of the wicker basket scraping her face. A scream rang out nearby, fading as the basket hit the ground again. Then it seemed to come to a stop. "Bella?" A whimper responded, but it didn't sound like her sister's voice. She couldn't be sure. "Bella, I can't see you." The hot air balloon drifted back into the sky once more, and for a moment, the basket was surrounded by the clearest, purest blue. Dear friends, our adventure with the survivor comes to an end here today. We sincerely thank you, our audience, for accompanying us on this journey. We hope to continue receiving your support and feedback to make our channel better and better. We'll see you in the next part of this adventure. We wish you all good health and happiness.